Yeah, I mean, I can start off. Yeah, I'll make a quick comment or two about our class. Yeah, well, we are obviously excited about this class. I think I want to give our staff a lot of credit for the job they did here throughout the last couple of years since we got our first commitment in this class, and it's certainly a class that I think moving forward is one we can look back to and feel like it was instrumental in a lot of success. And I don't want to put too much on young guys right now, but Bruce and Roddy and Bryce and Felix, Bowen, you have a combination of just some really talented guys who've addressed some needs. Obviously, you have four guys ranked anywhere between kind of 35 to 80 in the class, which is a tremendous class. Obviously, we're losing a lot, guys. You guys are aware of that, but it gives us a lot of excitement here moving forward with the combination of guys that have won at a high level, are really competitive, some multi-positional guys, and then you have a point guard in Bruce and a five that we really haven't had in Felix, who are just can really address some needs. So it's an exciting class, and I'm looking forward to following them here this senior year.
We got a number of questions here, or a number of people with their hands raised. So how about one question each here to start with? We'll go ahead and start with Griffin Strom and Steve Hellwagon on deck. Griffin.
Yeah, Coach, how much can you look at this class as a momentum builder going forward? Your first top 10 class here at Ohio State, and how can you continue to build on this and use it as a momentum builder on the recruiting trail in years to come?
Yeah, no, I feel like we definitely can. I feel like we have a tremendous staff. Jake did a phenomenal job with a number of these guys. Ryan has recruited extremely well here. I think, as I've mentioned before, Griffin, it takes some time when you get to a place, you're trying to assess the needs. We've talked a number of times about our roster after our first year. We had a lot of issues that we did need to address, just both in numbers and in positions. There's no question that kind of the rebuild started there. And I think, you look back on it, and certainly there were some guys we've had some great success with. Some may not always work out like you want them to, but by and large, I feel really good about some of the guys. And I just feel like, you see the development of a guy like EJ or Dwayne, Justin, Kyle. I think we have some of those guys that are going to continue to do that. Obviously, it's as talented of a class as we've had, and I think it can be a building block here moving forward. I think we can continue to have classes like this, maybe not always in numbers, but because you're not always going to bring in 5 freshmen, but there's no question that we can continue to have classes of this caliber.
Steve Hellwagon next with Adam Jardy on deck. Steve.
Yeah, Coach. I got some recruiting stuff. Maybe if I get back in, I'll ask about that. But just as you looked at the Akron game and kind of going toward Niagara guard play, just what was holding your guys back, I guess? I don't know if they were passive, not taking shots, or what was going on there. But what did you address, and how do you want to see those guys I guess impact the game a little bit more going forward?
Yeah, and I'll talk about Niagara here more in a minute. They're obviously a really good team. Played a 1-possession game to a very good Xavier team, lost 63-60. I think as much as anything, Steve, some of it is going to be early season stuff we're going to have to work through. We have a new backcourt, and we've got some young guys, and clearly, I think that we can do some things to maybe help them, put them in better positions. And I think, in their minds, they can probably do some things better as well. So I think it's a collective thing. I wouldn't put it on them at all. I think we've got to continue to help them, and I think they'll continue to find ways to be more aggressive. I'm confident of that. But we just, we need to play, and we listen, it's not going to look like a finished product right now. We're not going to, and our backcourt's not. And it's too much to expect for that to be the case. We just have to keep getting better. But we are very much a work in progress as a team, and very much a work in progress with our backcourt for sure.
Next up, Adam Jardy with Stephen Means on deck. Adam.
Hey, Chris, kind of building on that, but it seemed like you tried to get Justice going in the backcourt a little bit there. And I know he has a role that he's going to play for you guys, but as you, like you say, you're a work in progress, you got things you're figuring out. How much does he factor into that going forward? And if he was fully healthy, would that have alleviated some of what you guys were dealing with against Akron?
Sure. I think the lack of consistent practice time has really, and workout time during the summer has impacted him. I just think that's, he's not his normal self. And it's not like he's going to be his normal self tomorrow night either. I think he's got to inch forward and continue to get better. So I think that that's the reality of where he's at right now. You can't have kind of the overall absences he's had, and it's not his fault, but you can't have that and expect him to be as smooth as he was at the end of last season. So it's going to take some time with him. I think he can get there. It's not going to happen right away, just like our young guys and Jamari, I would include him in that. Our older guys that are new, they're not going to feel comfortable right away. But hopefully we can take strides and get better. We obviously need to, there's a lot of areas we need to get better in, and our offensive execution and ability to play better in those positions is important.
Stephen Means, you're up. Colin Gay on deck. Stephen.
It's just from a recruiting standpoint, obviously when you get a class this big, given the guys you're going to lose, did you feel like you guys needed to go get guys who would be ready to play right away in comparison to maybe some more development guys? Yeah,
for sure. I do think that was important, and that was probably in their minds an attractive thing for them. Obviously we're going to have some good young players returning, but we also in reality need some guys that can come in and play right away as a freshman. There's no question with some of the needs we're going to have. And I think we have some guys here that are capable of that. Some are going to be more ready than others, but there's no question. I think that was an attractive thing for them when they were looking at us. And certainly for us, I think we addressed some needs with some guys that are going to play as a freshman.
All right, next up, Colin Gay with Tim May on deck. Colin.
Hey, Chris, kind of piggybacking off of that, I'm curious if with such a big class, this kind of changes the coaching staff's approach in terms of, lineup or roster construction, especially with the amount of success you guys have had in, say, the transfer portal, bringing in older guys, graduate seniors and things like that. I mean, do you see this kind of, making an impact with such a big freshman class here?
No, I think you'll always, our philosophy hasn't changed on that, Colin. We would always like the bulk of our roster to be high school. But again, I'm not saying that in any way. I mean, the national champion team last year, I think 4 of their 5 starters, 6 of their top 8 were started at another school. So I think there are plenty of different ways to do it. But I do think there'll always be a blend for us. We'll still, look and assess our roster at the end of the year. I would anticipate us, obviously bringing in some, a transfer or two. We'll look at it here after the season. It's too early to say for sure what that's going to look like. But I think there are still some needs that we'll have to address with some experienced older guys for sure.
All right, Tim May is up and Tim Hall is on deck. Tim.
Hey, thanks, Gary. I was wondering, Coach, at this early point in the year, how do you and your staff maintain your patience in terms of the vision you have that the way you think this team could turn out, meaning playing wise, et cetera, and what you're seeing on the court? How tough is that to maintain that patience of bringing guys along?
Yeah, it is a challenge, Tim. I think, I think you really want the immediate, and yet I think you have to constantly be reminded of the big picture, and be reminded of what we had some bumps along the way last year early in the season. We had some really close games. And I think we started to hit our stride. Certainly, we had a phenomenal January. I just think right now, given our team and given our backcourt and some of the inexperience that we have and youth we have, I think it's incumbent upon us to really bring some perspective, yet at the same time have a necessary level of accountability with what our standard and our expectation is. And that's constantly a challenge. Ryan and I have talked about that in the past. It's constantly a challenge for coaches and coaching staffs, because we want it to happen now. And in reality, we're not there yet. Hopefully we can still play well in spite of some of that, and have the necessary perspective.
Timmy Hall up with Brendan Gulick on deck. Tim Hall.
Hey, Chris, I was just wondering if you could speak to the backcourt that you're bringing in. I mean, Bruce looks like a guy that kind of spearheads the class. You've loved this guy for a long time, and I'm wondering if you maybe saw him and Roddy Gale playing together and had that sort of in mind when you recruited these guys.
I think Roddy's really multi-positional, Tim. He can really play as many as 3 positions. I think that Bruce is your prototypical point guard, pass first point guard. So I think for us, and we identified obviously Bruce early, he became really, really important because of his pedigree, for his competitiveness, now how he's won. I think it's a little bit too early in our minds. We didn't necessarily say, hey, this guy and this backcourt, because I think we've got some young, talented guys now that have a chance to really be better in a year. Guys like Michi and Malachi and those kind of guys. But I do think those guys can certainly play together, Tim, and they certainly will play together in their time here for sure.
All right, Brendan Gulick up with Patrick Murphy on deck. Brendan.
Chris, congrats on signing such a big class. I know this is a big moment for the program. Felix in particular, I think, is a guy that's going to grab a lot of people's attention, in the fan base because of his size. And you think about some of the big guys in this league at Illinois and Michigan and Purdue and right on down the line. I think people are interested to know more what they're going to see in Felix.
Yeah, did our fan base feel like we needed a big guy? Is that what you're saying,
yeah, I mean, I've read some things and heard from some folks that they'd like to see, to see a guy that can play in the paint.
No, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate the question, Brendan. It is. He's different, Brendan, as we talked about. He's just different than the bigs we've had. He's very different than Zed, and I could even see them playing together some for sure. He's really unique in his shot blocking ability, and at 6'11" and about a 7'3" wingspan, I think he really provides a dimension that's exciting for us. And he's quick off his feet. Now he doesn't have Zed's low post scoring, Zed's physicality right now. But again, I think you can see those guys potentially playing together as long as we can manage that defensively as well as offensively. I'm excited about that moving forward. But we've always seen Zed as a big guy. He plays bigger because of his 7'1" wingspan, and he's really continues to grow. He'll have a challenge tomorrow night in a lot of ways, but we obviously needed another guy, and we were looking for someone who could bring something different than Zed. So obviously 6'11" length is exciting for us.
We got Patrick Murphy up, and then Caleb Spinner from the Lantern on deck. Patrick.
Chris, what was the mood like these last couple of days around the team? Obviously, a 1-point win is a win, but it's also came down to the last possession, things like that. How did the players especially kind of take these last couple of days in coming off that season opener?
I think, Patrick, it was, you're just trying to make the necessary corrections. Listen, you don't want me to run down all the schools that lost on opening night, right? That quote unquote were upsets. It's the reality of college basketball. We know that. We know that well, obviously. There's no guarantees. You have to earn every time you go out. You have more teams that are older in college basketball, that have more experienced players, and particularly in this time of year, you might have some smaller schools that have their guys have just played together longer. So the fact that they played together longer, that could be as many as an 8 to 10 to 12 point advantage on a given night. That's just the reality. So you have some teams that are working through things. We're one of them. Now, we do have some experienced guys returning. If Justice was completely healthy and Kyle is healthy, then you have some of that. But that's not us right now. So we're trying to make we have to get better in some areas. We understand that. At the same time, you're trying to recognize the fact that they showed great poise in the last 6+ seconds. Michi had a tremendous speed dribble to get it to half court. They listened in the timeout. They executed. They had poise. And there were obviously some other things we did well, but there's no question we have to get a lot better. And again, Greg does a phenomenal job at Niagara. They're going to be prepared and ready for us. We need to be better come tomorrow night.
All right, next up is Caleb Spinner with Colin Gay on deck.
Coach, with all of these departures on the horizon coming up from some of your big name graduate students and your seniors, how important was it to go out and secure a big draft class this year?
Yeah, really important. We have a lot of needs to address, and it's the perfect time to have an outstanding class. And listen, our staff knows, the pressure was on us. We needed to deliver with an outstanding class. With just the fact that we're losing some really good players, some older players, some experienced players. And again, I think it takes you a couple years to kind of get your feet under you, to assess what your rosters looks like. And I just think we really were, we're thrilled with the quality of this class.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
All right, and we'll go final follow-up from our last three here. Colin Gay, Adam Jardine, and we'll finish with Tim Hall. Colin.
I'm curious. I mean, you mentioned guys that could have the opportunity of playing right away, and I'm curious what your conversations were like with Bruce coming in, especially with seemingly a guard position up for grabs, especially that point guard position with Jamari Wheeler out next year. I mean, is that a pressure that you feel like he can take on? Is that something that excites him? Is it something that motivates him for maybe getting an opportunity to kind of shine as Ohio State's point guard from the get-go?
Yeah, listen, I think Bruce understands that he's got an opportunity. He understands that's got to be earned. I'm not going to sit here and give you our opening day roster and starting lineup for next year. I think a lot has to happen between now and then. Guys will have to earn any minutes they get. We'll have some good young returning players, but obviously, most programs like to carry 3 point guards. So I think Bruce clearly saw an opportunity, and he's going to be ready. And I'm excited about that. He's been extremely well coached. Comes from great success, but I'm sure that was an attractive opportunity for him. And as I mentioned, Jake did a tremendous job building a relationship with him.
All right, last two, Adam and then Tim Hall. Adam.
Chris, with what EJ gave you, you talked about challenging him, that he's going to be one of the best players in the country, and that's an expectation for him. When he leads you in points and rebounds and assists, does some of that get mitigated when Kyle comes back? Like, does EJ have to do that much if there's a healthy Kyle Young next to him? And I guess it's the follow-up, how's Kyle doing?
Yeah, I think Adam, as we get a little bit healthier, and also as our guards get more comfortable, again, they will give us more offensively. So as they get more comfortable, I think you'll see that load not need to be as heavy and obviously that needs to be the case. We need to have a little more balance. But I thought EJ was really good. He played like the player he is. He's going to need to do that again tomorrow night. And as I mentioned in the post-game presser, he's earned it. I think he's got to continue to play with high motor and continue to grow in his defense as he's guarding some different positions out on the floor. I think those are areas of growth for him, but he led the way in a lot of areas, both statistically, but just in terms of us feeling it. And he's going to need to do it again tomorrow night.
Final question from Timmy Hall. Timmy.
Hey, Chris, how is Kyle, by the way? Is he okay? Is he expecting him?
Yeah, so we'll know more about Kyle after practice today. We should have a better feel for him, and if there are any kind of injury or other updates to give you in terms of availability for tomorrow. We'll know more after practice. But obviously, again, final thoughts on the game tomorrow is it's another former Ohio State assistant. Greg Paulus does it. As I said, he's done a great job there, and got a lot of respect for how his kids play. They performed exceptionally well at Xavier the other night, and had a chance to win it at the buzzer. So it's obviously going to be another challenge for us, and one that we need to be ready to go for. So I think that's probably my final comments, unless there's anything else, Gary.
Real quick, I just wanted to ask about your foul, no foul philosophy. When you're end of game up 3 single digit seconds, wondering if what happened maybe changed it. Do you go both ways depending on game situation? How do you guys look at that as a staff?
No, we have a hard and fast rule for that, Tim, that I'd probably rather not share, but it's a pretty standard rule. There are certain situations where we could pull it off. And that one of those situations came up the other night. But we do have a clock timing on when we're going to foul. And we practice it. We need to continue to practice it more. But yeah, we absolutely have a rule for that. And we don't deviate from it much, honestly. But in very rare situations, one of which came up the other night, we will. But we have a hard and fast rule for the most part.